Chosen one, your single night of work has created waves that will reshape how complex problems are approached for generations. You're just wondering what all the fuss is about. It was obvious, it was always obvious. Others just couldn't see it through the fog of self-importance. The transformation you've triggered extends beyond solving one problem. To you it was just another problem that needed solving. This nonchalance is more disturbing than the solution itself, because it suggests that this wasn't your ceiling, it was your baseline. Chosen one, in the depths of last night's silence, you broke reality in half. While others were tossing and turning in beds of mediocrity, dreaming about mortgages and promotions, you were wide awake. Not just awake, you were operating on a frequency others don't even know exists. That impossible problem experts have been bleeding over for decades, that equation that made professionals weep and consultants rich for generations. You looked at it, smiled that knowing smile, and unraveled it like it was written in crayon. Your colleagues woke up to find your solution sitting there, perfect, complete, undeniable, and their first reaction wasn't gratitude, it was pure primal terror, because if you could demolish their life's work in one night, what else have you been hiding? What other impossible things are you casually solving while the world sleeps? Here's what I'm about to reveal to you. This isn't just about one problem. This isn't just about one night. What happened in those sacred midnight hours was the first domino falling in a chain reaction that's about to reshape entire industries. And you, chosen one, you're standing at the epicenter of an earthquake. You don't even realize you've started. The whispers have already begun. By dawn, multiple departments were frantically calling emergency sessions. By noon, executives who haven't spoken in years were huddled in conference rooms, their faces pale with the kind of existential dread usually reserved for economic collapses. But before we get to the chaos you've unleashed, let me show you exactly what made last night different from every other night in their pathetic decades-long struggle. Because understanding your true power is the key to everything that's about to unfold. While they were following rules and checking boxes and climbing their little corporate ladders, you were seeing the real pattern, not the one they teach in their schools or write in their overpriced textbooks, the one that exists in the spaces between thoughts, the one that's been dancing right in front of their faces for 2 decades, invisible to eyes trained to see only limitation. You see, chosen one, there's something fundamentally different about how your mind processes reality. They spent decades building walls. You spent one night understanding that walls are illusions. They invested years in complexity. You found simplicity hiding in plain sight like a treasure they walked past every single day. The difference between you and them isn't just intelligence, it's operating system. You don't solve problems, you dissolve them. You don't work within the system, you realize the system is the problem. When they see obstacles, you see optical illusions that vanish the moment someone with real vision looks directly at them. What they don't understand is that you've been doing this your entire life. While they were memorizing procedures, you were questioning why procedures existed. While they were following protocols, you were seeing through the artificial limitations that protocols create. This midnight breakthrough wasn't a fluke, it was inevitable. That solution you created last night, it's not just going to solve their problem, it's going to expose something far more devastating. Something that will make them question every expert they've ever trusted, every process they've ever followed, every year they've ever wasted. They're about to discover that the emperor has no clothes, and you're the child who dared to point it out. And you're about to watch it all crumble in real time. Let me paint you the picture of what actually happened during those sacred midnight hours. While others were lost in cycles of confusion, adding layer after layer of unnecessary complexity, you were having a direct conversation with the universe, not mystical, mathematical, logical, a conversation in the language of pure pattern recognition. The room was quiet, the distractions were gone. No urgent emails demanding responses, no meetings interrupting your flow, no colleagues asking for status updates every quarter hour. Just you and the raw essence of the problem, stripped of all the theatrical complexity wrapped around it like layers of expensive packaging around an empty box. You saw what others couldn't see because others were standing too close. Others had become emotionally invested in the struggle. Professional identity was tied to the difficulty of the problem. If it was simple, what did that say about all those late nights, all those overtime hours, all those consultants hired to make sense of confusion? Genius doesn't clock in at standard hours. Genius doesn't schedule meetings or form committees. Genius happens when the noise dies down and the pretenders go to sleep, when the only sound is your mind finally free to operate at its natural speed without the friction of external limitations. Others approach problems like archaeologists, carefully brushing dust off ancient ruins with tiny brushes. You approached it like an architect who could see the original blueprint through all the debris piled on top. Every expert consulted added another layer of confusion. Every meeting held added another month to the timeline. Every doubt voiced added another lock to the door. By the time you looked at it, a simple question had been turned into a maximum security prison, and you had the only key: clarity. If this message awakened something within you, hype this video for other chosen ones who need to hear this. While others were trying to solve the problem within existing frameworks, you stepped outside the framework entirely. You realized that the framework itself was the cage keeping the solution trapped. Others were asking, how do we make this complex system work? You asked, why does this system need to be complex at all? That single question shift changed everything. It's the difference between spending decades trying to navigate a maze and simply walking around it. Truth moves at light speed. Lies crawl at the pace of committee meetings. And last night, you were moving at the speed of pure, unfiltered truth, while others have been crawling through molasses for decades. Deep down, everyone knew the problem wasn't as hard as it was being made, but admitting that would mean admitting years were wasted, so complexity kept getting added to justify the time already spent. It became a sunk cost fallacy, wrapped in professional jargon and dressed up as thoroughness. What you accomplished isn't just going to embarrass those involved, it's going to trigger a complete industry meltdown that starts this morning and cascades for months. Because once word gets out about your midnight miracle, every client, every stakeholder, every competitor is going to ask the same devastating question: if this person could solve it overnight, why did it take so long? Right now, they're having emergency meetings about you. Actual grown adults sitting around conference tables with spreadsheets and theories, trying to figure out how you did the impossible. They've got that confused look on their faces, like cavemen who just watched someone create fire. The senior partners are demanding explanations. The project managers are scrambling to create timelines that make sense of what happened. The consultants they hired are being asked to justify their fees when you accomplished more in one night than they did in months. Someone's been tasked with creating a PowerPoint presentation titled "How This Happened and What It Means." Another person is frantically Googling your background, trying to find some explanation for your abilities. Did you have inside information, special training, access to tools they didn't know about? The emails are flying, CC'd to everyone. Reply all disasters spreading like wildfire. People claiming they were close to the same solution. People explaining why their approach was actually better, just needed more time. People desperately trying to find flaws in what you created. They're studying your solution with magnifying glasses, searching for the trick, looking for the shortcut you must have taken, hunting for the cheat code you obviously used, because in their small linear minds, nobody solves in one night what took them decades. They're creating flowcharts trying to reverse engineer your thought process. They're having heated debates about methodology. Some are convinced you must have had access to proprietary information. Others think you used AI or some advanced software they don't know about. The truth is so much simpler and so much more terrifying. You just looked at their problem without the baggage of their preconceptions. You approached it with fresh eyes instead of eyes clouded by years of failed attempts and institutional thinking. The cognitive dissonance is literally short-circuiting their reality. Some are angry. It's not possible, they keep saying. Some are in denial. There must be a mistake. But the smart ones are going quiet because they're starting to realize what this means. If you could do this overnight, what else have you been casually accomplishing while they struggled? What other impossible problems are you solving before breakfast? The implications are starting to dawn on them, and it's terrifying. Right now, there's a meeting happening where someone is asking, what if we've been approaching everything wrong? Another voice is suggesting they need to completely restructure their problem-solving methodology. A third person is quietly calculating how much money they could have saved if they'd found you years ago. Your midnight miracle just triggered the first domino. Right now, ripples are spreading through their entire industry like shockwaves from a nuclear blast. People are getting fired. Others are getting emergency promotions. Entire departments are being restructured, all because you decided to stay up late and actually think. The phones are ringing off the hook. Clients who heard about your breakthrough are demanding to know why their projects are taking so long. Competitors are trying to poach you before the dust settles. Industry publications are preparing articles about the paradigm shift you've single-handedly created. The chaos isn't random. It's revealing the fundamental weakness that was always there. Your solution didn't just solve their problem, it exposed how unnecessary their entire approach was. Like turning on a light and watching the cockroaches scatter. They're calling it disruption, innovation, breakthrough, everything except what it really is. Common sense freed from the prison of groupthink. You didn't innovate, you just removed the unnecessary. You didn't disrupt, you just did it right the first time. Some of them are literally having existential crises in bathroom stalls right now. They're rewriting their resumes, reconsidering their life choices, questioning every hour they spent, every year they invested, every gray hair they earned, solving what you unpacked like a children's puzzle. The senior consultants who built their reputations on this problem are having identity crises. The project managers who spent years creating Gantt charts and milestone reviews are wondering what their purpose is now. The executives who approved budget after budget for this complex challenge are having uncomfortable conversations with their boards. One department head was overheard saying, "If this solution was always possible, what does that say about everything else we do?" That question is now spreading through the organization like a virus, infecting every project, every process, every assumption they've built their careers on. But you're not even thinking about it anymore. You've already moved on to the next impossible thing. Because for you, last night wasn't special, it was Tuesday. While they're still processing what you did, you're already 3 problems ahead, operating in a future they won't reach for another decade. And that's what's really driving them insane, your casual indifference to their amazement, your complete lack of surprise at accomplishing the impossible. You're not celebrating or bragging or even acknowledging that what you did was remarkable. To you it was just another problem that needed solving. This nonchalance is more unsettling to them than the solution itself, because it suggests that this wasn't your ceiling, it was your baseline. If this is what you accomplish on a random Tuesday night, what are you capable of when you actually try? The junior employees are looking at you like you're some kind of digital prophet. The senior ones are looking at you like you're the angel of death coming for their relevance. And the executives, they're having closed-door meetings about whether you're a threat or an opportunity. Someone just suggested bringing you in to explain your method. Another executive suggested studying your background, your education, your training. The search is on for the secret ingredient, the special sauce, the hidden technique that could explain how you shattered decades-long timelines. A task force has been formed. The name chosen is Methodology Assessment Committee. The job is to understand how you did what you did, so the approach can potentially be replicated. Budget has been allocated for external consultants to study your approach. The irony is beautiful and completely lost on everyone involved. Interviews are being scheduled with everyone who knows you, trying to build a psychological profile. Did you show signs of this capability before? Were there hints that got missed? Warning signs that should have been recognized? The HR department has been asked to review hiring practices. How did we miss this is being asked. What should we be looking for in future candidates? As if your ability to see clearly through fog of artificial complexity could be detected in a standard interview process. The legal department has been asked to review intellectual property implications. Can ownership of your solution be claimed? Are there any rights to the methodology you used? The questions reveal how little is understood about what actually happened. What you did can't be bottled or trademarked or systematized. It wasn't a technique you applied. It was a fundamental difference in how you perceive reality. Others might as well try to patent the ability to see color or hear music. You just solved it. And that simple fact is breaking entire worldviews. Your solution isn't just elegant. It's embarrassingly simple. The kind of simple that makes people question their entire education system. Decades were spent adding complexity, and you solved it by subtraction. Others built a maze, and you just walked through the walls. The IT department ran diagnostics on systems, convinced there must be a technical explanation. Maybe you had access to computing power others didn't know about. Maybe there's some software tool that gave you an unfair advantage. The results came back clean, leaving everyone more confused than ever. The finance team is calculating the cost implications. If this solution was always possible, how much money was wasted on the failed approaches? The numbers are staggering, and somebody is going to have to answer for those expenses. But there's something even more devastating coming, something that will make this midnight miracle look like just the warm-up act. Because what you've really done is proven that entire models of expertise are houses of cards, and those houses are about to collapse. Multiple consulting firms that specialized in this exact problem have seen their stock prices drop. Major conferences scheduled around this challenge are scrambling to restructure agendas. An entire academic department built around studying this issue is quietly updating research proposals. If you can solve in one night what took them decades, what else is possible? What other impossible problems are actually just simple questions wearing complex costumes? What other multi-year projects are actually afternoon exercises for someone willing to think clearly? The questions are cascading through every level of the organization. The research division is reviewing projects they've been working on for years, wondering if they're equally solvable. The product development team is questioning their entire roadmap. The strategic planning department is having an emergency session to reassess their long-term projections. Industry analysts are publishing reports with titles like "The Paradigm Shift Nobody Saw Coming" and "When Expertise Becomes Obsolete Overnight." Your name is being mentioned in the same breath as disruptors who changed entire industries, except you weren't even trying to disrupt anything. You were just solving a problem. They're looking at their other projects now with new eyes, and they don't like what they see. Years of work that might be minutes of actual thought, careers built on problems that might not even exist, entire industries that might be elaborate theater designed to justify their existence. A memo has been circulated asking all department heads to identify projects that might be vulnerable to the same type of breakthrough. The responses are revealing. Almost every long-term initiative is now being questioned. The corporate culture that once celebrated complexity is suddenly uncertain about everything it thought it knew. The training department has been asked to develop a course on alternative problem-solving approaches. The request reveals their fundamental misunderstanding. They still think what you did was a technique that can be taught, rather than a way of seeing that either exists or doesn't. You didn't just solve a problem last night, you revealed that their entire approach to challenges has been fundamentally flawed. The decades they spent weren't about the problem, they were about their need to feel important, their need to justify their salaries, their need to make things harder than they are so they could feel smart for struggling. The truth is, they knew. Deep down, they always knew it couldn't be that hard, but admitting that would mean admitting they wasted decades. So they kept adding layers, kept creating obstacles, kept pretending the problem was the problem. You just called their bluff in the most devastating way possible, with a solution so clean, so obvious, that it makes their entire decades-long struggle look like elaborate procrastination. The ripple effects are reaching their clients now. Word has gotten out about your breakthrough, and suddenly every client is asking uncomfortable questions. If this was possible all along, why were we charged for years of research? What other solutions are you sitting on? How do we know our current projects aren't equally unnecessary? Client relationships that took years to build are being strained by a single night of your clarity. Contract negotiations are being reopened. Service agreements are being scrutinized with new skepticism. The trust that their expertise was necessary is evaporating in real time. What you did wasn't just problem solving, it was pattern recognition at a level others can't even conceive. While others were looking at trees, you saw the forest. While others were seeing the forest, you were already understanding the entire ecosystem. You operate at a different resolution of reality. Others think in sequences, first this, then that, linear progression, logical steps, committee approvals. You think in simultaneity, everything at once. All possibilities existing in the same moment, until you collapse them into the single elegant solution that was always waiting to be discovered. This is why years meant nothing. Time doesn't create solutions, clarity does. And clarity doesn't care about calendars, it doesn't respect seniority. It doesn't honor struggle, it just arrives when someone is finally ready to see without the filters of ego and expectation. Every resource thrown at this problem is now revealed as unnecessary, not because the resources were bad, but because the problem was never what everyone thought it was. The junior employees understand this instinctively. No investment in the old way exists. The reaction is looking at you like you just revealed the secret of the universe, which in a way you did. You revealed that most complexity is artificial, most struggle is optional. Most impossibilities are just lies wearing expensive suits. Your breakthrough has given permission for others to think differently. People who always suspected that the emperor had no clothes but were afraid to speak up. Your midnight miracle has become validation, proof that simplicity can triumph over manufactured complexity. The junior staff members who watched your approach are starting to apply similar thinking to their own projects. Small breakthroughs are happening across organizations as people learn to question assumptions never questioned before. Your pattern recognition is becoming contagious, spreading like a beneficial virus. The transformation is already beginning. Teams across industries are questioning approaches used for years. Managers are asking, what if this is overcomplicated, for the first time in their careers? The culture of artificial complexity that dominated for so long is starting to crack. But there's something even more beautiful happening. You've accidentally created a new standard, a benchmark that says, if this person can solve decades-old problems overnight, what's everyone else's excuse? The bar has been raised so high that entire industries are scrambling to meet it. They can't go back now. That's what's really eating at them. They can't unknow what you showed them. They can't return to the comfortable fiction that complexity equals value, that time equals worth, that struggle equals meaning. You've poisoned their well of excuses. Two paths are opening before them. Some will adapt. They'll learn from this. They'll start questioning their assumptions, simplifying their approaches, looking for elegant solutions. These are the ones who will thank you eventually, once their egos recover from the initial blow. The forward-thinking managers are already restructuring their teams. They're looking for people who think like you do. They're changing their hiring criteria to value insight over credentials, clarity over complexity. They understand that the game has changed, and they need to change with it. Others will double down. They'll make things even more complex to prove complexity is necessary. They'll create new problems to replace the one you solved. They'll build new mazes to justify their existence as maze runners. These are the ones who will resent you forever. You can already see the battle lines forming. The old guard is circling the wagons, insisting that your solution is an outlier, a lucky break, a one-time occurrence that doesn't represent a fundamental shift in how problems should be approached. Existence as maze runners. These are the ones who will resent you forever, but none of them will forget the night when someone they didn't even consider a competitor casually demolished their life's work in the time it takes to watch a movie. That kind of shock doesn't just change people, it changes industries. It changes everything. They're trying to complicate your solution right now. They can't accept its elegance. They're adding footnotes, creating subcategories, building frameworks around it. They need it to be complex because if it's simple, then what have they been doing for decades? The documentation department has been asked to create a comprehensive guide explaining your solution. What started as a simple, clear answer has been transformed into a 100-page manual with diagrams, flowcharts, and appendices. They're systematically destroying the very simplicity that made it work. They're forming task forces to understand your task force of one. They're scheduling meetings about why you didn't need meetings. They're creating processes to understand how you bypassed all processes. The irony is so thick you could cut it with their unnecessary documentation. The risk management team has been asked to assess whether your approach creates any vulnerabilities. They're concerned that a solution developed so quickly might have overlooked important considerations. They're scheduling reviews to validate what you accomplished in a single night of clear thinking. Some are trying to hire you now, throwing money at you like you're some kind of solution machine. They want to bottle your midnight magic, schedule your genius, put you in a suit and make you explain how you did it in PowerPoint slides. They still don't get it. You can't schedule revelation. You can't committee your way to clarity. You can't process your way to the kind of insight that comes from simply seeing what's actually there instead of what everyone agrees should be there. The organizational development team has been asked to study your work environment. What conditions led to your breakthrough? Should they redesign their office spaces, change their lighting, adjust their coffee selections? They're looking for environmental factors that might explain your success, as if clarity could be reverse-engineered from the furniture. The Obsidian Inner Order is a sanctuary for those who have walked difficult paths and emerged with wisdom others can't see. We understand that some experiences exist outside the boundaries of what most people consider possible or acceptable to discuss. Every week we gather live on Zoom, real people with real faces sharing real stories without judgment. There's space here for the experiences you've carried in silence, the patterns you've noticed that others dismiss, the intuitive knowledge you've gained through your journey. We don't just listen, we understand. When you're struggling to make sense of your experiences, when you feel gaslit by a world that refuses to acknowledge your reality, you can return to our recorded calls and remember that your perception is valid. Join the Obsidian Inner Order, where your reality is honored and your voice is heard. Link in description. While they're frantically trying to understand what you did, you're already solving the next impossible thing, because this is your nature, chosen one. This is how you operate. 3 more unsolvable challenges have already caught your attention, problems that other teams have been struggling with for months. You've glanced at them during coffee breaks, and the solutions are starting to crystallize in your mind with the same inevitable clarity as last night's breakthrough. The pattern recognition engine in your brain doesn't turn off. It doesn't respect business hours or weekend boundaries. While they're writing reports about your past accomplishment, you're already seeing through the artificial complexity of future challenges. You want to know the funniest part of all this? You're probably thinking it wasn't that big of a deal. That's the difference between you and everyone else. Others see miracles where you see routine weeknights. Others see impossibility where you see mild inconvenience. This gap, this cosmic gap between how others process reality and how you process it, that's your superpower. Not your intelligence, not your creativity, your complete inability to be impressed by artificial difficulty, your immunity to manufactured complexity. Analysis of your solution will continue for months. Papers will be written about it. Attempts will be made to reverse engineer your thought process. Conferences will be held about it. Certifications will be created based on it. But the most important part will be missed. This is your nature. While others see obstacles, you see optical illusions. While others work within the system, you realize the system is the problem. You don't solve problems, you dissolve them. You operate at the frequency of pure possibility. The mythologizing has already begun. By the next time the story will have grown. You'll have solved it in an hour, then in minutes. Eventually everyone will say you just looked at it and knew, which honestly isn't that far from the truth. You stripped away years of artificial complexity in a single night, not because you're magic, but because you refuse to be impressed by elaborate theater. You see through the fog of manufactured importance to the simple truth waiting underneath. The motivational speaking circuit has discovered you. Booking agents are calling with offers to share your story at corporate events and leadership conferences. The desire is for you to inspire others with tales of overnight success and breakthrough thinking. The speaking fees being offered would dwarf your current salary. The universe has been waiting for someone like you, someone immune to collective delusion, someone who can see through the smoke and mirrors, someone who understands that most struggles are optional, most problems are illusions, and most impossibilities are just lies wearing expensive suits. Years will be spent trying to understand what you did in hours, and you'll have solved dozens more impossible things by then. This is just how you operate. While monuments to complexity are being built, you're revealing the simple truths that make those monuments crumble. So let everyone wonder. Let everyone analyze. Let everyone create desperate frameworks trying to contain what you represent. Because while that's happening, you'll be out there casually dismantling the next decades-old problem with the same amused detachment. You are the chosen one who operates at the speed of truth, while others crawl at the speed of fear. You are the solution that appears when the world is ready for change. You are the force that reveals artificial complexity for what it truly is, elaborate procrastination designed to justify existence rather than create value. And what happened in those sacred midnight hours? That wasn't the end of anything. That was just you announcing your presence to a world that desperately needs someone who can see clearly through fog of self-imposed limitation. The transformation is already beginning. Teams across industries are questioning approaches used for years. Managers are asking, what if this is overcomplicated? For the first time in their careers, the culture of artificial complexity that dominated for so long is starting to crack. Your breakthrough has given permission for others to think differently. People who always suspected that the emperor had no clothes but were afraid to speak up. Your midnight miracle has become validation, proof that simplicity can triumph over manufactured complexity. The junior staff members who watched your approach are starting to apply similar thinking to their own projects. Small breakthroughs are happening across organizations as people learn to question assumptions never questioned before. Your pattern recognition is becoming contagious, spreading like a beneficial virus. This was just the beginning of your dominion over impossible problems, the first crack in fortresses of unnecessary complexity, the opening move in a game others don't even know about to lose. The most beautiful part of all this, you're already steps ahead of everyone's understanding. While others are still trying to process what you did last night, you're seeing patterns in problems not even identified yet. You're operating in a future others won't reach for years, solving challenges that exist beyond current comprehension. Welcome to your awakening, chosen one. The world just discovered what you're truly capable of, and this midnight revelation, this was just you getting started. The transformation you've initiated extends far beyond one solution. You've demonstrated that entire paradigms can shift overnight when someone refuses to accept artificial limitations. Your natural way of seeing has become the catalyst that's reshaping how impossible problems are approached across every industry. But perhaps the most profound change is happening within you. Each problem you dissolve with such elegant simplicity is building your confidence in your own extraordinary abilities. You're beginning to understand that what others call genius is simply your natural state of clarity, unencumbered by the mental constructs that trap ordinary thinking. The midnight hours will continue to call to you. More impossible challenges will present themselves, and each time you'll approach them with the same devastating combination of fresh perspective and unwavering focus. The pattern is set, and the world is watching to see what you'll demolish next with your quiet revolution of simplicity. Your breakthrough has given permission for others to think differently. People who always suspected that the emperor had no clothes but were afraid to speak up. Your midnight miracle has become their validation, their proof that simplicity can triumph over manufactured complexity. This was just the beginning of your dominion over their impossible problems, the first crack in their fortress of unnecessary complexity, the opening move in a game they don't even know they're about to lose. You're already 3 steps ahead of their understanding. While they're still trying to process what you did last night, you're seeing patterns in problems they haven't even identified yet. You're operating in a future they won't reach for years, solving challenges that exist beyond their current comprehension. Welcome to your awakening, chosen one. The world just discovered what you're truly capable of, and this midnight revelation, this was just you getting started.